you're here with us for the MAP plan for proactive pet parents. This is the plan and the webinar that your pets want you to attend so that you make sure you've made a plan to take care of them in the event you are not present and able to take care of them in the future. This plan helps you navigate the journey that your pet takes when you can't care for them. I hope you've gotten your valuable gift, which is the ebook that follows along with everything I'm going to talk to you about today. It is a wonderful chock-full ebook, and if you haven't got us, please let us know so we can send it to you. Also, we're sending you a link to the Pet Home Alone app, which is available for Droid and for the Apple phone, smartphones in general. This app enables you to put all the information that you're going to learn that you need to provide for the care of your pet here on your smartphone. And it will alert people that they are the people who are going to take care of your pet in the event something happens to you. I am an attorney. This webinar is meant to be legal information and not legal advice. And I mediate conflicts between people over animals. That's what I do. I'm not a trust and estate attorney, but you know what? I found a conflict that arose in my life that I know arises in other people's lives as well, and they don't know what to do about it. So I decided to create this webinar. This webinar is not like your regular webinars where they're going to talk about things you already know. I have created this webinar to tell you the things that are kept secret when you make a plan for your pet, the things that you don't even think about that could go wrong, that could not meet your expectations, and you don't even know the questions to ask your trust and estate professional to get them to follow the plan you want to make for the pets that you love. If you have dogs or cats, if you have horses or birds or reptiles, any kind of animal that you love, you need to make sure you have a plan that meets their needs. Their lives depend on you. Now, you might wonder why it is I'm here talking about this. I mediate conflicts between people over animals. Why did I get into this trust and estate part, talking about making a plan for your pet, mapping that journey, navigating that path? Well, I'll tell you. In 2013, I broke my ankle. And like many of you, I have multiple pets. At the time, I had 9 dogs. 9. Yes, I am certifiably crazy, but I had 9 dogs. There's one now. And I'd like to tell you that it was a simple process to care for them when I fell and broke my ankle, but it wasn't. I couldn't walk for 8 weeks, and all of the food and all their area to run out in my backyard is accessed in the basement. So for me, I thought I had my plan down pat. I have 2 sons and a husband, but I couldn't walk for 8 weeks. They were taking care of me. Picked up the phone, called my 2 friends who I had talked to many times over many glasses of wine, as all of us do, or to our neighbors or whatever. We talk to people, say, listen, if something happens to me, would you take my dog? And if something happens to you, I'll take your dog. And it's all on a handshake or a hidey-ho or whatever it is, nothing in writing. Well, I called my 2 friends who, one had just broken her wrist about 2 weeks before I broke my ankle. The other was renovating her kennel. It is Murphy's Law. When something goes wrong, things don't always fall into place the way you hope they would. I was very lucky that I had a 3rd person. I was smart enough to have a 3-person backup to take care of my pets. And the 3rd person was able to come and take care of my pets for the bulk of the day. You want to wonder why I think that's really important? If you are sick or you have a loved one who's sick, you want to be able to have your pets cared for in a really great manner, not by you. I can tell you from personal experience that it gave me peace of mind that I had someone in my home that was taking care of my pets and taking that burden off my husband and my sons who were taking care of me. I actually gave this webinar in Portland, and an attendee called me about 6 months later. She had walked out of the program and said, listen, my daughter's taking my dogs. We have this agreement. No problem. I don't have to do anything. I said, hey, I get it. No problem. She called me up 6 months later and said, you know, it's been gnawing at me. I've been thinking about this and thinking about this and thinking about this. And she said, why should I make my daughter take my dogs when she already has 3 dogs? She has 3 kids. They're young kids. And it might be a burden and an overload to her to take these dogs. So why don't I do this? Why don't I make a plan where my daughter takes my dogs? And if my daughter can't take the dogs, I have 2 or 3 people lined up behind her to take those dogs, and she won't feel bad. I said, brilliant. That is exactly why I give this program, because it isn't that your family doesn't want to take care of your dogs. It's because your family wants to take care of you instead. I also want to point out that my husband just broke his shoulder, and I was taking care of him. So it doesn't always just equate that you can't take care of your pet. You might want to take care of a family member, and because you have so many animals, you can't because you have to take care of the animals. Wouldn't it be great if you had a plan in place, short term or long term, that enabled someone to come in and help you so you could either recover from an injury like I did, or help a loved one recover from an injury, which I did? I have to tell you that that's why I am so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you're going to stay and listen to this. This is going to make a difference in your life and give you peace of mind that you have never even considered, because of the fact that you have a plan in your will, and that might not be enough. So let's start with what the MAP plan is. Think of your dog on a continuum. So here you are living your life. Well, actually, it's the wrong side. Here you are living your life, and the dog is absolutely happy and go lucky, and you're healthy, and everything's going really, really well. And you've made a plan in your will that if you die, which is at this end, the animal will be cared for. What happens in the middle? What happens if you're not dead yet? Attorneys don't always tell you that if you don't make a plan outside your will as well as inside your will, you may not be able to put together the plans or have those plans come to fruition because you're not dead yet. Did you know that? Is that something that you had even considered, that if all of your plans are in your will, if you're not dead yet, they are not accessible? So on the surface, you have this continuum, and if you don't consider what happens before you're dead and in between right now, you may be leaving your pet at risk. And I know if you're here on this webinar, you don't want to leave your pet at risk. So the 4 things you need to do that will make your pet safe and sound start with the letters of MAP, which is why I call this the MAP plan. I double the A because there are 2 A reasons for making this plan. So the M of the MAP plan is, as you can imagine, make a plan. You have to address the needs of your pet. You have to appoint the people who are going to take care of your pets, and you have to publish. Those are the 4 steps that I'm going to cover today. And I hope you stay with me for the entire time, because I have a great free offer at the end that you're not going to want to miss. So please do me a favor and stick with me, because I'm starting with the M and why it is you need to make a plan. You want to make a plan so that you know that you have not left anything to happenstance. You have a plan inside your will that's funded. You have a plan outside your will that's funded. It creates that security that someone, somewhere who you've appointed is going to make sure that the way you want your pets cared for, if you can't personally do it, will care for your pets according to this plan. It is the single most important thing for you to sit down and do, because making a plan is the bedrock of all the other pieces that I'm going to talk about tonight. It is something that is so important to you. The second piece is address the needs of your pet. what you need to feed them, what kind of medication they're on, what kind of toys or food they like to eat, the friends they have, the friends they don't have, whether they're agility and rally dogs, whether they're dock diving dogs, whatever it is that floats the proverbial boat of your dog's wonderful life with you, you want to address that because it's important that they know that these dogs love to sleep in bed with you, that these dogs love to sleep in crates, that these dogs are afraid of thunderstorms. Whatever it is that makes your dog completely unique is something you need to address for each and every dog you own. If you only own one, it's a simple task, but really don't stop with, well, he likes to walk on a leash, he likes to sleep in bed, and he likes to eat this type of food. Really think about how he likes to play catch or not, how he likes to throw his toy around, how he likes to snuggle next to you. These are things that if in fact something happens to you short term or long term, you are really going to want to share with someone so that you can make the transition to your pet so much easier. It is difficult for me to talk about, but it is so often the case that people don't make plans for their pets and something happens in their lives. They lose their job, they get sick, or a parent dies and it's the parent's pet. These dogs get dropped off at shelters. If they get dropped off at shelters, they are what is called an owner surrender. They have a higher likelihood of being euthanized than a dog that's picked up off the street that gets extra time so the owner can actually find them. So if someone drops your dog off at a shelter, it is more likely to be euthanized earlier than if, in fact, it is found walking on the street. Another factual information that you might want to know in the event that you leave your dog without a plan and don't address the needs of your dog, you really could have this dog in a situation that does not enable it to thrive. It may be held back from someone that you've made a verbal plan with to exchange the dog. I have a friend who said, well, I'm going to take this person's dog and she's going to take my dogs. And I said to her, is the other party married? She goes, yes. I said, is her husband executor of her will, or is he the one in charge? And she goes, yeah. I said, well, if it isn't in writing and he decides not to give you the dog, you're not getting the dog because he gets to be in charge because he's her husband. I've had people who've had Alzheimer's whose husbands wouldn't even feed the dogs. I've had people who have not enabled someone to come in and take care of the dogs because they just didn't know or they didn't care. I actually spoke about a gentleman who placed his wife's dog, and this may be incredibly far-fetched, but Scout's honor, true story. He placed the dog and didn't ask where the dog was going. He gave it to a rescue, didn't ask where the dog was going, and of course rescues don't really identify who the person is they give a dog to, because he thought the dog was too stressful for his wife who was struggling with cancer. She came home and the dog was gone. She was devastated, and he couldn't get the dog back, and he couldn't find out where the dog went. He had acted in all good faith, but had made a huge mistake because she hadn't made a plan and she hadn't addressed the needs of the dog or even her own needs. So make sure these first two pieces you do and you do correctly. Very important. Now, the second A stands for appointing the people who are going to care for your dogs. I go to a number of shelter events and I have so many people and dog shows. I show Irish setters and long-haired dachshunds, so I have a lot of friends with a lot of dogs. In shelters, I have a number of people who walk up to me and say, listen, my kids are taking my dogs, so I don't have to worry about this. It's in my will, mistake number one, and my kids are taking my dog, mistake number two, because don't assume that your children can take your pets or even want to take your pets. But they're not going to tell you that because they're afraid you're going to cut them out of your will. So they're not going to tell you. I had someone come to my mediation office to try to mediate between people who ended up with their mother's dog and them because they had dropped it off at a kill shelter and, oh my goodness, it wasn't killed. It was actually adopted by an older couple. And so that older couple got the money that the mother had left for the person who was caring for her dog. You cannot think that there is, as my friend who sat through my program in Portland said, you can't assume that your kids are going to be able to take your dogs. As I said before, I have two sons. Both of them love my dogs and love dogs in general. They are offered my dogs, but they know they don't have to take them. One of them just bought an apartment that allows pets. He, before that, lived in a pet-free zone, so he couldn't have taken it even if he wanted to. So be kind to the people who are in your life and make sure you have what I always say, redundancy. Appoint many people for the care of your pets so that if one person can't do it, another person can do it, another person can't do it, you have redundancy. And the last person on your list should always be either a breed-specific rescue if you have a purebred dog, or the rescue where you adopted your dog from, because you want to make sure that they know, and if you've donated time or money to them, they will take very good care of your dog. And there are now shelters that permit you to pay a fee to have them take your dog and hold it and place it so that you know that they're going to take really good care of your dog. So it is important for you to appoint the people in order who you want to take care of your pet, and make sure you do it in a way that enables the parties to say no as well as to say yes, because it's a responsibility. And you just have to make sure that you don't force people to take something that they really want to do but can't. You want your pet to be taken by someone who can and will take care of it in the best way that you can. Let me go back for a minute to address the needs of your pet. Put down everything you want for the care of your pet, but recognize, as I have, no one on earth will take care of my pets the way I do. No one. So I have to have the nice to have, which would be that they go to obedience, they go to agility, they go to duck diving, they go to tracking, they go to dog shows. It's a nice to have, to they sleep on the bed and they live in the house. That's a gotta have. That's something that you are non-negotiable on, and that's really important. There was a woman up in upstate New York who wrote a will for her 3 cats, and it took 18 months to find the person who fit the bill that she put in her will. I love my attorneys so much, but they allowed this woman to put these 3 clauses in her will. The cats had to stay together. They had to live within a mile of their home. And the person who adopted them could not have any other animals. Now, when you're writing that, it doesn't seem like it's so hard to find, but you know what? It is. Whatever you put in the care of your pet under address the needs of your pet, make sure you have already found the person who's going to fit that ideal person. If you haven't, make sure you make it negotiable, because it is important that the pet goes to the next level and doesn't stay alone. Finally, you want to publish this plan that you've made. If you make a plan and you address all the needs of your pet and you appoint people who are going to take care of your pet, you need to publish that plan. Who do you publish it with? You publish it with the people who are going to care for your pet. You publish it with your family so they know what you want to be done with your pet. So your family gets a copy. Maybe your neighbors get a copy if they're some of the people who are going to take your pets in the time of need. You give it to the people who are appointed farther away, who may have to come in to take the pets. You give it to your attorney. You give it to your veterinarian, because one of the 3 great secrets is that your veterinarian is really not allowed to care for your pet unless they have your permission to allow Susie Smith to bring your pet in. So if it's short-term or long-term, you need to have a document with your veterinarian that says, these 3, 4, 5 people can bring my pet in and you can care for it and you will be paid. Because it is important, it's licensing important for veterinarians to work with and establish a relationship with the pet's owner. And if someone walks in and it isn't the pet's owner, they may take care of the pet, but they would be within their rights to refuse. So if you make sure, that's one of the beauties of the Pet Home Alone, again, app. It advises your vet who the people are who can bring your pet in and have you care for it with the owner's permission. You want to publish it because people need to know. You need to publish it in a way and in a place that people can find. So after you give it to people, make sure you leave it somewhere that someone can find it. There was a woman in California who came to one of my map plans, and unfortunately, she stuck her map plan in a drawer, and a Good Samaritan came and placed all of her dogs. Now, any of you who co-own or whose dog has a first right of refusal clause, if you get a dog from a shelter, sometimes you can't place that dog unless you get them to agree to the placement. And that might fly in the face of your appointing someone to take your dog, because the rescue has this document that you've signed in good faith to allow them to come back and get the dog. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you create this document and use the Pet Home Alone app to advise everyone of what you're doing and how you want it done. It is by far the most important piece of the puzzle. You have to enable it to be found. So this woman did not allow it to be found. A Good Samaritan came in and placed all the dogs that were co-owned with other people, all of them. And when the co-owners came to get their dogs, which was the agreement she had in writing in a contract, the Good Samaritan would not tell the co-owners where the dogs were. Now, if any of you have litigated, it is really, really expensive to try to litigate and find out where those pets went. They could have done that, but they didn't. I, of course, being a mediator of conflicts between people over animals, would have said, let's all sit down and mediate and try to find out where these animals are. But the Good Samaritan did not want to tell anyone where the animals were. So they are with someone who is not the co-owner and clearly is not the person who passed away wanted these animals to go to, since in her map plan that was in the drawer, she had said they should go to the co-owner. It was very disappointing and really tough, really tough. So what you want to do is you want to, if you put your map plan in the drawer, make sure you have a sticker on your refrigerator. Make sure you have an insert in your wallet. I also give out inserts for your wallet to let people know who to call and what to do if, in fact, something happens to you, so that you can be alerted, or the people who you care about can be alerted that your dogs are home alone. On my website, www.hamiltonlawmediation, you can download a free pet passport. Don't forget to do that, because that's really important. So if you publish it, put a notice somewhere, very visible, very easy to find, that says the file with my plan for my pets. They might not know what a map plan is. You do now because you've been on this webinar, but they might not. So what you want to do is say, this is where the plan for my pets is, and mark it and put it somewhere very conspicuous so that people can find it and follow your directives. Now, I added a new twist to this because I realized that if you make a plan and you address all the needs of the pet, and you appoint the caregivers you want to appoint, and you publish it, what happens next year? What happens if someone dies, God forbid, a friend who said they were going to take your pet? What happens, God forbid, one of your pets die? What happens if someone who you didn't know before is really a great candidate for caring for your pet? Make sure you put it in your calendar to schedule a review of your map plan, which sits outside your will, so you can easily do that every single year. And recheck with everyone who you've appointed and let them know, yes, you are number 1 on the list, but if you can't take it, remember we have number 2, 3, and 4, so that they don't feel pressured into taking your pet. So the super secret sauce here, the awesome super secret sauce, is schedule a review. Really, really important. At the end of my map plan, you might think that I love to use letters to describe things, and you'd be right. The reason you want to make a map plan is because there are 5 Ds that you want to avoid so that your pets are well taken care of. What are those 5 Ds? Death, You've taken care of that if you've put everything about your pet in the will. So you've taken care of one of the 5 Ds. Bravo, good job. Disaster. Have you asked your neighbors and people nearby who might be more appropriate to help you than someone who lives in the next town or the next state to take care of your pets? In a disaster, have you asked your neighbors to take care of your pet? Don't call them when the wind changes and the fire is coming toward your house. They are as freaked as you are. You need to set up this plan before the wind shifts. I had another woman in one of my programs who said, we have 7 horses up on the hill, and we have neighbors who have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 horses, and we're in fire country. You gave me such a wake-up call that we have to sit down and decide if 2, 3, 4 of us are home and 1 or 2 of us aren't home. How do we collect all the horses and get them down the mountain? Because we all ride together. This isn't something that, well, I don't know my neighbor. When you have dogs, you have horses, maybe not birds so much, but if you have dogs and horses, maybe not cats so much, you have comrades in arms. So you really need to get those people together before the disaster strikes. So you have death, disaster, disease. You're not dead yet. You have cancer, you have Alzheimer's, you have the flu, you have pneumonia, you're in the hospital, whatever it is. That's the 4th D. Then the 5th D is divorce. Let me see. Death, disaster, disability, divorce, and delay. So divorce is something that I talk about all the time. I actually give a simple, long webinar on how to handle pets in divorce, because quite frankly, if you can make the plan before you're getting divorced, if you can make the plan while you still like each other on who's going to get the pet, that would be great. Because quite frankly, I don't like you, you don't like me, but the dog likes both of us. So the dog would be served better if we could leave our egos at the door and enable the pet to stay with both of us, short term, long term, while I'm on vacation, lives with me all the time, but while I'm on vacation, lives with you. That's a whole different webinar. I'd love for you to come in, join me on that, because it really is important. If you're married or in a relationship with a pet, you need to make a plan on that stand too, because the pet really would benefit from being able to keep both their parents, because as with children, they really do love you both. And the last one is delay. So how many of us have slept overnight in an airport or had to get a hotel room, or we had a flat tire, our car broke down, we couldn't get home? If you're delayed, you really want to have a MAP plan in place to care for your pets. So those are the 5 Ds: divorce, disaster, delay, disability, and disaster. You've got to keep them together. You've got to recognize that it is so important to make this plan. So as a wrap up, you have the MAP plan. Make a plan, address the needs of your pet, appoint caregivers, publish your MAP plan. Remember the 5 Ds: death, disaster, disease, disability, delay. And if you are a proactive pet parent, here's how I might be able to help you if what you heard here isn't what you have in place. I'm offering a MAP strategic session with me. Just going to talk to you about what you have in place and what you may want to put in place. It's completely free. When you get the recording, you'll also get a link to sign up for the strategic session, the MAP strategic session. You have to qualify for the MAP strategic session. There's a few questions that you have to answer, submit it to me, and I have limited time to take these. So the earlier you get them back, the better chance you have of getting a strategic session with me. If this has resonated with you and you think you might have holes in your MAP plan, you want to grab one of these strategic sessions, because I'm going to give you loads of information on how you can clean up what you're missing and put in what you really need. So I'd love to talk to you on a MAP strategic session. Say that 3 times twice. So the link will be with the recording, and I look forward to speaking with some of you who sign up, because it is so important that your plan is ready to go and ready to care for the pets you love. Please follow me on Facebook at Hamilton Law and Mediation. You can follow me on Twitter at HLawMediation. And I would love to have you let me know what you think about this webinar. Write a critique, tell me what you think at info@hamiltonlawandmediation.com, or just return your feelings in the email that you get with the recording. I am so grateful you've been here. Your pet is so grateful you've been here. And I look forward to seeing you on future webinars that talk about how to care for your pet and how to keep conflict at bay. I have a new book, Nipped in the Bud, Not in the Butt, How to Use Mediation to Resolve Conflicts Over Animals. You can pick it up on Amazon. I will be doing webinars on the function of mediation in conflicts between people over animals that is so much more respectful and responsive to the needs of the people with pets than litigation. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Deborah Voivoda Hamilton, and I look forward to speaking to some of you on a strategic session really soon. Take good care.